and I couldn't know. So you'd have to ask him which one, or in what order, any combination of the three proceeded to next occur. Whether his little testicles shriveled and ascended back up, whether his baby dick retracted and inverted itself within him like a scared little turtle, or whether his father-fingered little asshole puckered so tight, terrified from confrontation, that it was presently impenetrable even to the priest who originally stretched it out in the first place. But El Meatsack's aggression was instantly frightened out of him, and his demeanor was drastically subdued, that his tone suddenly retained none of its prior conviction. "All right, man." Now more suggestive than declarative, as he also retreated his body in the menacing posture of its just prior language, abruptly away from me. I, however, in no way relented, nor at all do I exaggerate when I say that after then slowly, deliberately, removing the headphone from my right ear also, bending over to place the dual contraption of cell and headphones onto the floor near my water bottle at the base of the pulley apparatus, and then standing calmly back up onto a straight, challenging posture before him, I spent no less than the next full minute, at the very least, with my eyes fixed firmly imperturbable upon him, before at all unlocking them or returning to my exercise. Like, okay, you don't want me to look at her? Then I shall look at you. But so to drive home my point as to just how intimidating I found him to be, and thusly, by my stare, effortlessly eroded away at his confident facade, and caused breach into his brave courage, from which his wounded ego shall not soon recover. I'm serious. A full minute at least I stare at him and watch him simply squirm, but all the while he's doing all he can to ignore me, to make it seem as though he's not bothered, until eventually he even mustered an effervescent conduct with his young lady friend, so to brush me off. Well, no problem there. Simply a matter of dropping my eyes below his belt line and trying to find Meatsack's meat stick, while also at the same time shaking my hand below my own belt line, grabbing my third tripedal appendage and shaking it by the base. And wouldn't you know it though? But that Meatsack's brief, bubbly behavior was suddenly popped. Burst of its mirth. And his ass soon found a bench to conveniently rest upon, and was thereafter hesitant to relinquish or cease from its sitting position. And as he could hardly beguile the while, beyond an intense, strained smile, an embarrassing and pitiable portrayal of self-assured composure, his feeble, fruitless effort to veil his own overpoweringly helpless insecurity. This went on for a good 5 minutes, too, and well beyond past that my victorious battle was assured. Throughout which time also I never let up on my object attack, but would resume my focus upon him with my each completed set, and I missed not an opportunity in which I should find him on his feet to remind him with my eyes that what he's packing is lacking, but that he might thoroughly regret the pitch of his initial imposition, by which he brought upon himself his own shattered sense of self, and popped to his own inflated ego. I might have done him the biggest favor of his worthless life, if he took the chance to reflect on the ill-advised decibel of his demanding intrusion. I doubt it, though, forasmuch as, just later on that same day, many minutes after we had wandered our separate ways, I spotted him from afar, swaggering about with a 25-pound weight hanging by chain from the front of his girdle-like belt, concealing his penis, or lack thereof, imperceivable beneath its suspension, and aiding, bolstering, undoubtedly, the cocky pomp and self-assured air of his jovial, listless loiter. Of course, I could not stand for such a thing, or idly allow such a thing to stand either, so I worked my way nearer to him, and wandered and bobbed my face into his immediate view, until I gained his attention, at which point, having attained it, I then proceeded to antagonize aggressively, with the index finger of my one hand pointing at it from afar down the chain that covered his dick, while with my other hand I covered my mouth and the exaggerated laughter that I fabricated to taunt him. And oh boy, how quickly I watched the expression simply drain flush from his face before he recommenced with his pacing loiter. His face now tense and no longer lighthearted, and without his recent prior strut. It was something marvelous to behold, I tell you. I've seen Meat Sack on several occasions since that day, also, but never with that same girl. So, hopefully one of them at least learned a lesson that day. Say no to hicks and pricks with needle dicks. And there's a public service announcement worth running. At any rate, right around that same general time, problems with my car began to require priority and would soon requisition my daily schedule, that I wouldn't many more times after that risk driving through the daytime heat, but would be forced to wait until the much cooler evening to drive to the gym. In fact, it was probably within days of this, give or take, that I was pulled over by El Guapo, the gay capo, and I remember that I turned off my car right away before the engine had a chance to die. Within close days also, I then started selling plasma, which stingy whoredom, besides mind and soul and daily spirit, drains the body of its physical liquid rhythm, that my every biological cycle is disrupted and has spiraled out of control since I started. So that any vernal, sun-concurrent circadian that I had developed during the summer, and to which by that point I was currently still adherent, would soon thereafter and in quick succession would utterly disengage, and again the sun's crucial itinerary and its fleeting, revitalizing benefit, not inconsequential, yet no longer of pivotal basis, but moot, again irrelevant. Accordingly, though, and in short process, it was soon my routine to show up in the late evening to work out among the gym's sharp decline in present patronage, or, and else, the occasional early morning with the hordes of early morning breed homosexual hunters and sexless seniors shuttled over from one of the local homes. So things for a while, after these clustered incidents started to simmer between the hicks and me, but only because I merely wasn't there when they were, as the creature in the American wild, in his Hispanic packs, is partial to daylight activity and business hours of operation, insomuch that it's during this daily interval that one mows lawns, or so one can reasonably assume. There's a period, though, weeks later, a stretch between the very end of September and the first week of October, in which I made several recurring afternoon visits during peak hours of occupancy. And of all the harassment and hostilities that I've been made to stomach, none can I so wholly and only describe as personally disheartening as the something smacked to my face, wherewith gorgeous Maria may as well have, and all but smote me. Ay, Maria. And am I some lowly jet despised, and so shy of handsome Benny Jemite, who might instead be prized? And ay, Dios mio, to be by such honeybee stung, that specimens of rare, vibrant beauty ought not inflict upon one another such wound on behalf of ugly humanity, but except, I suppose, that Delilah were poor. I've been more disgusted. Landra comes to mind. I've been more frustrated, certainly, more offended, more incensed by current anger, again remembering my time at the inn, but never so hurt by sting at heartstring. Because again, I'm being perfectly honest, without hint of hyperbole, and do not at all opine, but declare an empirical fact to so acknowledge that there exists not a more beautiful woman in the whole wide world than Maria. I'm serious. There are plenty that are as beautiful, but in terms of sheer physicality, discernible, comparable, superior traits, her absolutely flawless yet generously fleshy, fantastic feminine form, her angelic facial symmetry and ratio, her bright, lustrous eyes that are bigger by advantage, and her crown of thick, flowing, white gold, glowing streams of curling, silky, caramel viscous hair, curvaceous like her figure. Not a woman in the world can claim Maria's superior, only her formidable rival. Nor is there a woman on the planet that were allowed, or would do well, or ought wisely to let her guard down, if ever Maria were eyeing her man. For that eyes like Maria's would displace even the most principled and disciplined man's logic unto his loins. What's more, any individual objection or disagreement unto the validity of such assertion is merely reflective of preference for tint and taste in spectrum, and not attributable unto qualitative aesthetic, for girls like Maria set the standard. We met on an early afternoon in the bright new autumn. The sky still yet baby like summer blue, but the breeze brought the air below barely warm. The day was lively and hopeful, surging with impetus, charged with the ready potential of transition, something like the first worry of once invincible wide-eyed youth, feeling age for the first time, yet mirthful and invigorated, buoyant for new motivation, for the surrender of sophomoric sentiment, for the putting away of boyish notions of bachelorhood, for the feeling finally of readiness to settle down and to find someone with whom to settle in and face the winter frost. We had several times before in the preceding months shared presence at the gym, Maria and I, but neither of us had ever as yet approached unto the other's near vicinity. Yet we both paid attention to each other and were always cognizant of the other's location. We just merely as yet had not ever a chance to meet. Because you have to figure, being that hot, in that culture, every cocky brochacho who's ever laid his eyes on her has tried by her beauty to prove his bold bravado. So a girl like Maria is not to be audaciously approached, lest, amidst the precedent taking place before spectators, she be put on the spot, an obligation forced upon her to rebuff and wisely despise and deny access, lest the other contending males be encouraged to adopt display, for that rival scent is in the air, and the feeble brains of beasts, by its own testosterone, is crazed unto wild frenzy, and severed of cerebral within arena, and behaves bewildered by its own chemical heat. But that so hardly is a girl like Maria to be even encroached upon with any sort of imminent proximity implied. No, but I must let her come to me, and bring herself my way, and if and when she wants to, she will. We always made eyes, though. Always. But I think she might just like playing eyes. And I do too. I just don't know if she appreciates the subtler but more intimate dialogue established in the interest expressed between shared glances, or the intuitive conversation that takes place. But she also might just enjoy being adored. She certainly attracts them easily enough. Eyes. So she may just be coy by protocol, probably to some degree a safety measure, that by serving back each set of eyes sent her way, none need offense, though she should scorn to engage but few. And insomuch that, except she grew up the ugly duckling, and matured unto her magnificence, to bloom unto perhaps the prettiest swan to ever grace her every present pond, looking like that, growing up within that hot-blooded phallocentric culture, it's impossible but that by ravenous, rapacious stares she was secretly solicited and licentiously looked upon and lustfully devoured by the desirous eyes of every single male, regardless of respective age disparity, that ever looked upon her, since her age was likely still but a single digit. In any event, I had just 2 sets left, something like that, of my exhaustive back bicep forearm routine, before I'd be finished at my current place, when Maria walked up and claimed the bench next to mine. That hardly mattered, though, Maria choosing the bench next to mine, since there were only 2 or 3 other men besides me, along the row of benches, and we all agreed to disperse ourselves 2 benches apart and between each man. Yes, we got together, me and the lugs around me, her alternatives. We had a little powwow in the midst of the free weights, and we all agreed, and it was decided that for the sake of privacy, and as we had the run of the place, that it was best to let two benches separate each animal and allow each primate his own territory. So Maria, though, she had to sit down next to one of us, and it just so happens that she chose correctly. She did, however, drag a sly little side glance at me through the mirror as she first strolled mincing by, passing behind me from my right side, before setting her gym bag on the bench to my left. But 2 sets, that's like 3 minutes. 4. And I don't work that fast. With women, that is, making acquaintances and such. Mine is a more patient approach. It has to be. I'm fettered by too much handicap, prohibited to my assertive prowess. So I need her to feel frustrated, to level the playing field. Otherwise, if I should more boldly break the ice, simply because I'm handsome and have right to, no job though, no place, giving plasma, using my aunt's car, then I'm just another loser that's hitting her up. Wherefore I just let our presence grow within first vicinity of a girl with whom I have some optic rapport, let her become acclimated to my near proximity, let the static charge between us, which never yields, let it build up for a few minutes amidst our more closely shared company, and I'll play interested, even distracted, but ultimately indifferent, until eventually, though, and preferably prior to her beginning preparations to vacate the area, I'll wander off away from her entirely and go work somewhere else, but that she's left wanting more of the attention that we just shared. After the next time that we share similar presence and I hardly acknowledge her, but not in a way like cold or repellent, but again, something indifferent, like I'm past the little infatuation that we shared, then she's frustrated, for that we still pay attention to each other, but that by the next time after that, she barely realizes that she's excited to again be there together, and so puts herself around me, at which point when I finally approach and we make our acquaintance, I'm almost just being polite, and she's almost relieved. Not an overly efficient method, hugely inconsistent, and of course, after meeting the powers that be, and over me, they'll prohibit her, and we'll go the next weeks without seeing each other, and I've lost maneuver, and she's careful to keep her distance after those weeks, even though she was flattered when we met, and except that we didn't meet again until too long thereafter, nothing went awry during our exchange, to which she seemed generally receptive, and portrayed willing, if not happy, participant wherein, but which otherwise I might cite for awkwardness to work and improve upon. And if it didn't too many times transpire thusly, and occur in sequence like clockwork once we've met, then I wouldn't notice or interpret strange amiss how that me and a girl will for weeks see each other routinely and also like clockwork, and then meet, and then suddenly she's never there, then finally she's there but can't look at me, or either appear casual but wears a rigid pretense of her intimidation. It's disconcerting. Not very exciting either, my mingling method of attraction, and it doesn't afford for much spontaneity or really any contact upon first sight. But instead it requires multiple encounters, that she has a chance to think about me after we've gone, but our eyes have met, and over our next visits together, frustration and anticipation, or vice versa, but so that she makes herself easily available to me, that we might meet, and that I might at first become but a friend who she looks forward to seeing randomly, that my personality, and my smile into hers, and my happy, cheerful, chipper confidence, over recurring encounters onward from there, should first leave me palatable despite, whenever she might learn of my current dismal plight. Otherwise, unless I let the issue build up, it's something like trying to approach a girl at a bar without being able to buy her a drink. Or exactly like it, just without the bar.